Minimalism is about so much more than aesthetics or how many items we own. It's an attitude towards life and towards happiness. Minimalism is a philosophy and a mindset as much as it is a practice. So in order for us to start living a minimalist lifestyle, we first have to start thinking like one. Today's video is about that minimalist mindset, and I share 15 ways for how to think like a minimalist so you can use those same principles and guidelines to shape the life that you want to live. And a big thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. I'll talk more about them later, but for now, let's dive right in. When it's time to decide if something should enter your life, whether it's about purchasing a physical item or saying yes to a project or a commitment, ask yourself how that thing is going to impact your life. Because minimalism is largely about making priorities and making sure that the things that we invite into our home and into our life make sense and that they are there for a reason and that they add value. So ask yourself, if it's a purchase, it's going to impact your life in a number of ways. For example, it's going to take up space in your home. It might also add to your debt, or it may add to your to-do list because now you have to use that item and also keep it clean. On the other hand, it could also bring you lots of joy. It could inspire you. It could make your daily life easier. It could enable you to do something you've never been able to do. As a minimalist, I quickly ask myself how something will impact my life before I let it in, and I only say yes when I expect the positives to outweigh the negatives. Buying a new phone or getting a new sweater may put a temporary smile on our face, but research has actually shown that human beings quickly adapt to our belongings, and new things can seem really exciting at first, but then we adapt and they become mundane. So pursuing happiness by acquiring something new will therefore always be a never-ending cycle. Experiences, on the other hand, can offer much more lasting value. Even if they are fleeting, which they are, they will always have an impact. We are an accumulation of the places we've been, the people we've met, the lessons we've learned. Going out and doing something fun, experiencing a new restaurant or enjoying nature, being with friends can form memories we can look back on fondly. When it comes to prioritizing experiences over things, I would love to know your thoughts and experiences with it. Please share that in the comments. Do you have like a funny story or an anecdote or an example of how that is working out for you? Please let me know. When making a decision to purchase something or to let a certain project or commitment into your life, quickly take a moment to ask yourself if there is a simpler solution available that can offer the same results. Because minimalism for a large part is about simplifying what we can and being intentional with what we have. If this is the best and easiest solution available, then go for it. But perhaps there's something else that you can do that will give you similar results, but in a much simpler and less complicated way. Next is a very simple and practical guideline that I like to use when I make decisions about entertainment, like streaming services, movies, books, video games. And it is my €1 per hour guideline, and of course you could also use $1 per hour or any currency that you have. So if a streaming service costs me €10 a month, I quickly ask myself if I'm going to get at least 10 hours a month of use out of it. And this is a very easy and practical way to figure out if something is worth it or not. And I do the same with books and video games that I buy. And if I find that it doesn't really add up, I try to see if I can get it on sale somewhere or secondhand, or I explore different options. Before we move on, if you are new here, welcome. My name is Vera, and I make videos about minimalism, intentional living, happiness, and self-care. So consider subscribing to the channel if you aren't already to make sure that you won't miss my new video. And I also share extra videos a month on my Patreon, like this one. So feel free to join us over there if you want more. We have a really lovely community of people there, and I like to open up a bit more on there as well, share some more personal things. The most minimalist and sustainable way to do things is to use what we already have. It may be a bit less exciting than buying something new for each occasion, but this is one of the best ways for keeping your home simple and minimal in the long run. Whenever I need a certain item for a specific task, I ask myself, do I already have something I can use? Or if not, does it make sense to borrow or rent it if I'm only going to use it for a short time? More often than not, I decide not to buy something new unless I really feel that it is necessary or that I can get a lot of use out of it in the future as well. Another important habit that most minimalists have is to wait a while before they make a purchase and not say yes to impulse buys. And this can be anything from just sleeping on it for a night to adding it to their wish list and waiting for a period up to 30 days, depending on how much time you need to make a decision. There have been a lot of times when I felt tempted to buy something, but after waiting a few weeks, I realized that I didn't need it after all, or that my life was just going fine and smoothly without that new item. So you could try taking a picture of it in the store, or you could try adding it to your wish list, and then letting time tell you if you still want the item after the initial excitement has passed. Most people get into minimalism by taking a good hard look at the items that they own and then downsizing and decluttering, and that is how I came into it as well. But after about 7-8 years of minimalist living, I still cannot say that I am completely finished with decluttering because it's kind of an ongoing thing. Life changes, my needs and wants change, and an item that has survived like 10 or 15 decluttering rounds still at one point in my life can stop providing me value. So try to get into that mindset of continuous decluttering and make it into a habit so that whenever you spot an item in your home that you haven't used in a while, try looking at it through a different lens and take it out of its comfort zone and just ask yourself, does this thing still deserve a place in your home? A short break to thank Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. I am very happy and excited and grateful that they are supporting the channel again. Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives, and they offer thousands of inspiring classes on topics like illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, and more. The classes often include a combination of video lessons and class projects, and they have classes for all levels. Lately, I have been wanting to expand my horizons a bit, and I decided to learn more about graphic design because I found that I really enjoyed that part of designing my ebook. And one class I enjoyed in particular was Graphic Design Basics, Core Principles for Visual Design by Ellen Lupton. There's also tons of other topics and classes, and something that I really like is that most classes are under 60 minutes long, and they also divide them up into very small portions on topics, so it's very bingeable, and it's also quite affordable because the yearly subscription works out to less than $10 a month. The first 1,000 people to click the link in the description will get a 2-month free trial of premium membership, so you can start exploring new skills with me. I have said it before, decluttering is a marathon and it is not a sprint, and I know that this is not what some people want to hear because there is this tendency to go crazy and declutter like a maniac and really purge everything that you no longer find useful or valuable or that no longer sparks joy, and just start with a clean slate. And if that is your process, then definitely go for it. But I highly recommend taking it a bit slower so you don't burn yourself out, and also so you will not end up getting rid of something that you will regret and that is irreplaceable. Think about how much time has passed collecting all of these things into your life, probably years and years. So you cannot really expect yourself to get rid of everything you don't need anymore in 2 weeks. As challenging as this can be, try to be patient with your family members and the people that you live with. The questions that I get asked the most often are about how to deal with being the only one in your household being interested in minimizing and decluttering, and I get it, I really do. But forcing your views on others and making them join you when they're not ready often doesn't work. Decluttering can be an emotional process, especially for people who, for one reason or another, still feel a lot of attachment to their things. So if you start by decluttering your own belongings, that's already a great start that will bring you many benefits. And perhaps others will slowly start to follow if they see you lead by example. So try to understand that everyone has a different viewpoint of their belongings, and don't be discouraged if you cannot change their minds. Many minimalists believe in the principle of quality over quantity, and that is because if we buy things with high quality that last us a really long time, that will decrease the number of items that we purchase overall. And also, if we make sure that our items that we buy, that we can get a lot of use out of them, that will decrease the waste that we produce. One way that we can make sure an item has good quality is by doing some research and reading reviews, and that is my favorite way by far. And this is also where waiting to make a purchase and avoiding impulse buys comes into play again. But do remember that the price does not always say something about the quality of a product, because sometimes the price is simply higher because it's a very popular brand. So do your research and don't let their prices fool you. Or sometimes it makes sense to invest in an older model of a certain product after a new version has come out, because the older model will often be really good still, but since it's not the newest model anymore, it is cheaper. So that is when you really want to check these latest models. Do they have something that I really need? And if not, you're often better to go for the model that is not the latest one. Another way I practice that minimalist mindset is by asking myself before I buy something or before I say yes to anything, if I'll still be as excited about it 1 year from now. Sometimes it's mostly the novelty that gets us excited about something, and this question can really help to zoom in on that. And another very practical way of thinking more like a minimalist is to assess whether an item is a single-purpose item or a multi-purpose item. So if it's very specialized or not. Because if it's a single-purpose item and you can only use it for one thing, how much use is it really going to get? More often than not, if it's a multi-purpose item, it'll get more use. Most minimalists know and believe that buying something new is not going to make them any happier, and it is not going to create lasting change, and that retail therapy is a very temporary solution and therefore an empty promise. We all have moments when we feel unhappy or dissatisfied or discontented with life. The difference is that a minimalist doesn't go shopping to try to cheer themselves up, because they know that the effect is only temporary. If we feel that there's something missing or something needs to change, it's up to us to figure out what that is and shape our life differently. Only when we take charge of our life can things change and can we make lasting improvements. I remember a time growing up when I really wanted to own a specific phone and also buy a specific brand of clothing items simply to fit in with my classmates and my friends. And I remember spending all my allowance on this super expensive sweatshirt that was poor quality simply because everyone else was wearing one. And even worse, the fabric was white and I got a stain on it super quick, so I could not get out the stain. I couldn't wear the sweatshirt anymore. And consumerism was kind of a way of life for me then, but I figured out that it wasn't the key to happiness, at least for me. Unfortunately, sometimes people are judged and validated based on what they own, but that doesn't mean that we have to participate in that mindset. By developing our minimalist ways of thinking, we can get to know ourselves a little bit better, and we start to realize that the choices that we make, we are responsible for them, and we are the people that make those choices. And if that means that we don't completely fit in with everyone and everything, that is fine, and it can only make us more interesting. And lastly, an important part of how to think like a minimalist is to know and internalize that you do not have to go for a certain life or a certain lifestyle just because that is the norm. And a large part of minimalist living is making your own choices, not because society tells you that that is the life that you should live, but because it feels right for you. If you don't want to pursue a corporate career because it doesn't make sense for you, that's fine. If you prefer to sleep in a futon because you don't want to own a bed, that's fine. We can all make our own choices based on what works for us, and we decide how to spend our money, our time, and our energy. Right here are 10 decluttering secrets for amazing results, and right here are easy minimalist habits to improve your life. I would love it if you could give this video a thumbs up because that helps, and of course subscribe to the channel to not miss my next video. As always, questions, comments, conversation down below, and I'll see you next week, my friends. Bye bye!